Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. The Curse of Oak Island discovers another ancient artifact. The Curse of Oak Island has made a ton of progress this season. They have dug far underground for the first time and might have found underground caverns. The team got back into the swamp for the first time since last year. They also have discovered more at the Money Pit. In the most recent episode, they found another ancient artifact. This one might have a connection to ancient Rome. Curse of Oak Island finds possible Roman artifact. The team from Curse of Oak Island has found quite a few interesting things on the island this season. In the last episode, Gary Drayton and Jack Begley took the metal detector out and discovered a huge find. They found an artifact that might date back to ancient Rome and could lead to more speculation about who was on the island so many years in the past. The artifact was a circular-shaped coin that was made of lead. It had 2 holes in the middle of the coin and what looked like ornate scalloping around the sides. According to Gary, it might have been a trade token used thousands of years ago. Emma Culligan, the archaeometallurgist, placed it in the XRD, X-ray diffraction analysis, scanner. According to Emma, it looks like the coin came from either Iran or Sardinia, which is off the coast of Italy. She also said the lead was pure, which meant this was a very old find for the team. With the thought of ancient Rome, Emma said ancient Rome used mines in Sardinia. Last week, Italian researcher Emiliano Sacchetti spoke to the team and talked about Ralph de Sidoli. He was a 12th century Templar knight who Sacchetti thinks might have looted treasures from Jerusalem and taken them to North America. Who is Ralph de Sidoli from Curse of Oak Island? This is not the first time that Ralph de Sidoli's name has come up on the Curse of Oak Island. Way back in Season 6, the team spoke about this Templar and what he might have to do with the island itself. 88-year-old researcher Zena Halpern passed away around that season, and Rick Lagina mourned her loss as she introduced the team to documents in Season 4 about the Knights Templar and their possible connection to Oak Island. At the core of Zena's research was the Cremona document. This was discovered in a church in the 1970s in Italy and had a collection of maps, ciphers, and journal entries. It is believed that 12th century Templar knight Ralph de Sidoli partially authored them. This was when the team began to think he brought the looted treasure to Oak Island. The sun was beginning its descent over the dense pine trees that framed Oak Island, casting long shadows across the dig site. Rick and Marty Lagina, the brothers who had become synonymous with the mysterious island's treasure hunt, stood on the edge of the Money Pit, where centuries of treasure seekers had dug in vain. The air was thick with anticipation and dust as the excavation team worked tirelessly, guided by nothing more than the whispers of the past and their relentless determination. This day, however, felt different. There was a tingling sensation in the air, a buzzing excitement that seemed to surge through the ground beneath their feet. For weeks, the team had been zeroing in on a new area, a spot that had, up until now, remained relatively untouched by the countless expeditions over the past 2 centuries. The Lagina brothers had pored over old maps, journal entries, and sonar scans, and this place, a small, unassuming patch near Smith's Cove, kept calling to them. As the digging continued, a metallic clang echoed through the pit, a sharp sound that cut through the murmurs of the crew. Everyone froze. The machinery was halted, and the crew leaned in, eager eyes scanning the ground. Marty was the first to speak, his voice a mixture of hope and caution. "Did we hit something?" One of the workers nodded, pointing downwards. "Feels like metal," he said. "Something solid, but not a rock. Too uniform." Rick's heart pounded in his chest. He knew better than to get his hopes up too quickly. The island had a way of playing tricks, of making fools of those who dared to dream of its secrets. But something in his gut told him that today was different. He motioned for the diggers to proceed, but carefully. "Slow and steady," he advised. "We don't want to damage whatever it is." The team switched to hand tools, gingerly scraping away the earth around the object. Minutes felt like hours as they worked with painstaking care. And then, finally, there it was, a flash of something golden, a curved surface peeking through the dirt. Gold, Marty whispered, almost afraid to believe it. Rick leaned in closer. Not just gold, look at the pattern. As more dirt was brushed away, the object revealed itself, an intricately designed piece of metalwork, an artifact that seemed far too delicate to have been buried in the earth for so long. The artifact was a small, ornate disc, no larger than the palm of a hand. Its edges were scalloped, and it was engraved with symbols that none of them immediately recognized. A faded gemstone, possibly a ruby or garnet, was embedded at its center. "What in the world is this?" asked Alex Lagina, joining his father and uncle at the edge of the pit. The find was immediately wrapped and carefully transported to the field tent for a closer examination. Under the light of a lamp, the ancient disc seemed to come alive, the golden surface shimmering as though it had captured the last rays of the setting sun. Rick held it in his gloved hands, turning it over, feeling its weight. It was heavier than he'd expected, suggesting it was solid gold. Marty called over the resident archaeologist, Dr. Miriam Fisher, who was already leafing through reference books, her fingers tracing lines on ancient maps and documents that were strewn across a table. She adjusted her glasses and leaned in to examine the object, her eyes widening. "This is remarkable," she said after a moment of stunned silence. "It's definitely old, very old. The craftsmanship, this wasn't made by someone looking for utility. This was made with care, with purpose. But these symbols, I've never seen anything quite like them before." Rick and Marty exchanged a look. They'd heard that phrase too many times over the years, never seen anything like it. Oak Island had yielded countless artifacts, each one stranger than the last, each one seeming to tell a story that no one could quite understand. Dr. Fisher continued, her voice more animated now. "The symbols, they remind me of some early-chemical scripts. But there are also elements here that suggest something even older. This gemstone setting, that was a technique used in the ancient Mediterranean. Phoenicians, perhaps, or even earlier." Marty shook his head, a smile tugging at his lips. "Phoenicians? Here? In Nova Scotia?" Dr. Fisher shrugged, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. "We've seen stranger things, haven't we?" As the evening shadows lengthened, the disc was placed under a microscope, and the team gathered around a monitor displaying the magnified details. There were tiny etchings, too fine to be seen by the naked eye, running along the edge of the disc. To their astonishment, these etchings formed a series of concentric circles filled with symbols and numbers. "It's almost like a map," Marty observed, pointing to the patterns that seemed to spiral toward the center, "or a code." Rick nodded. "A treasure map, maybe? Could this be a clue to the fabled treasure?" Dr. Fisher leaned back, her face a mask of concentration. "Or maybe it's more than that. Maybe this is not just a map, but a key to something we haven't even considered yet." The room fell silent. The gravity of her words hung in the air. Could this artifact, this small golden disc, be the breakthrough they had been searching for? Was it possible that they had just unearthed a key to a mystery that spanned millennia? As the night wore on, the team continued their analysis, poring over every detail, every line, every symbol. Calls were made to experts in ancient scripts, and scans were sent to laboratories around the world. The Laginas knew they were on the brink of something monumental, something that could rewrite not only the history of Oak Island, but perhaps even the history of the New World. But for now, the disc remained an enigma, a shimmering piece of the past that seemed to whisper secrets they couldn't yet understand. Outside, the wind began to pick up, rustling through the pines, carrying with it the faint sound of the waves crashing against the island's rocky shores. Rick looked up, his eyes scanning the darkened horizon. "We're close," he murmured, almost to himself. "I can feel it. Closer than we've ever been."